So you guys know how much I like to bring you stories from personality disordered individuals detailing their abuse. But today we'll be hearing from two stories of people just like you and I, people who have been touched with the presence of such evil. We will be hearing from male victims of sociopaths and psychopaths. And I believe that men need to be validated because many times they are hesitant to say that they were emotionally, even physically abused by these types of individuals. And despite the gender of the victim, the schemes, the tactics that are used are still the same. Also, some women abusers, as we'll see in the stories today, can easily get away with their abuse because of the insidious and covert nature of their abuse. My goal today is to validate you and your experience. I know the hurt is real and the recovery is hard and slow, but be encouraged because it gets better as you get these people out of your life and you're committed to the healing process. So without further ado, here's the first story of a victim of emotional abuse from a male. I started dating a sociopath a little more than 2 years ago. The summer I was 18, she was 17. We met through a mutual friend, and she rushed the relationship while I wanted to take it slow. For the longest time, I considered that one of the best summers of my life because of how euphoric she made it all out to be. I stopped hanging out with pretty much all of my friends and started neglecting my family, all the while just spending more and more time with her. Then I started college at a university about an hour and a half away where I live, and she started her senior year of high school. What I didn't know was she had already reeled me in. Things were fine at first. We thought we could make it work for a year until she graduated. But everything changed about midway through the semester. She became distant and never wanted to talk anymore. But I had been home to see her every damn weekend, and most Wednesdays we met in between to eat and do other things. She blamed me for our relationship being so awful. She said it was my fault we were so far apart because I went to school an hour and a half away when there was a community college I could be going to about 30 minutes from where she lived. I tried to explain to her that I made this decision months before we even met. She didn't care. I would finally make it home for the weekend and then things would be fine. Until Sunday night, when it was time for me to leave, she would cry and pitch fits, not letting me leave until 1 a.m. or later, with an hour and a half drive to my dorm and an 8 a.m. class. She didn't care. It was all about her. Then her crying and sobbing on Sunday nights got worse. She began to start fights and try to leave me over stupid things. But because she knew how much I cared for her, she knew I wouldn't leave until I fixed things, which involved sitting there telling her how amazing she was and how ugly, stupid, and annoying any girl I had ever been with in my past was. During the week, all I did was lay in my dorm and wait for her to call. I pretty much had two friends my whole freshman year of college, my roommate and a cousin who lived in the area. This was strange for me because in high school, I was very sociable. I played varsity football, basketball, and baseball and received an academic scholarship to the college I attended. She completely changed who I was. I hated myself, but I loved her. I had no idea there were people like her in the world. My dad finally intervened the summer after my freshman year. He told me he would kick me out and never help me out financially again unless I ended it with her. I knew he was right, but I just couldn't explain the hurt I felt when I tried to leave her. He and the rest of my friends and family just could not understand. I finally left her. I went into a rampant alcoholic stage at the age of 19. Things started to get better and I started getting off the bottle until, at this point, it had been about 4 months since I had talked to her or seen her. We got back together and got back in contact. What a stupid and life-changing mistake that was. We dated in secret until February of the next year, until I found a strong core of new friends who helped me end it. She had actually taken an attempt at my life, which just totally blew my mind. I realized she was mentally sick and unhealable. I told my dad of our secrecy and he was pretty pissed, but he understood. I was finally done with her for good. Until she came to me a month later with a signed piece of paper from a doctor saying she was 2 months pregnant. I said, "I thought you said you were on the pill. What the hell? How did this happen?" "I lied," she said. Such a simple yet life-changing statement. My daughter is almost a month old now. I am still not with her, and she is engaged to some other poor soul now. We are about to start an extreme custody battle. I feel like I've been through the hell of a lifetime, but the hell has only just begun. It's just so much to handle, yet I do my best to stay positive. How can I deal with all of this? And by the way, I'm 20 now and still in college, so I'm cursed to make that godforsaken drive every other weekend to see my little girl. And I'll have to see the sociopath who changed my life. Guys, this story is incredible. And when I read it, I thought that I wanted to bring this to you guys because we see how strong the pull is towards these individuals. We see the love bombing. We see how they take up most of our time. We see how the relationship is rushed. We see the hot and cold behaviors that create the trauma bond that make it very hard for us to leave. This hot and cold behavior is what makes it excruciating. It makes the pain excruciating when we finally decide to leave. It's hard. And only someone who has been through this type of abuse understand what it feels. It's like a gut-wrenching twist that happens when someone is discarded or someone decides to leave. A sociopath, a psychopath, or a narcissist. I didn't see any mention of the gaslighting. Oh yeah, I actually did. I see mention here of gaslighting when he has to drive back to college from seeing her, and she blames it on him why the relationship is so rocky because he chose a college that was so far away, not understanding that he chose that college before they even met. We see the manipulation through crying and sobbing to get her way for him to stay. We see the callousness of her attempting to take his life. He said that she made an attempt to take his life, which was the straw that broke the camel's back, and he finally decided to end it with her. That, to me, speaks of, it shows the lack of empathy and remorse that these individuals have. There is none. There is no remorse. Because if you can push someone that far to try to take their life because you know that they're trying to get away from you, that is a pretty harsh thing to do. And then to add to that, she hovers him, tells him she's on the pill, on birth control. They have sex, and she gets pregnant. In another video, I discussed how a narcissist attempts to attach you to their hip. And this is a prime example of that. They need to create that latch where you can never leave. So it may be buying a house together. It may be having children together. Whatever it is to bind you guys together forever, that's what they're going to do. This is such a sad story. The beautiful thing is that they have a child together, but the way it was done, it was against his will. he didn't know she was off of her birth control because she said she lied. And I can imagine her face when she said that. When she says, I lied, that's the mask coming off. And if you have ever seen the face of a sociopath, when they pull that mask off, and at that point they don't care, it's chilling. The face, the eyes. I've literally looked into the eyes of a sociopath before and no one was there. And it scared me. Very sad story. I'm going to go on to the next story. I want you guys to notice the difference in age. Where this guy was 18, the next guy is 47. So it does not matter the age. People are being duped by these people all over the world, independent of age or sex or race. These toxic people exist, and they're the most dangerous people that you could ever meet. Here's the next story. I am a man, 47 years old. My sister is the first one to share this site with me. She came to me one day and said, you need to read this. It's exactly what you are experiencing. I glanced at her briefly and agreed, yet with hesitation. I even tried to talk to my partner of 2 years about it. Big mistake. It was only after the final and unbelievable blow that changed who I am forever. At least it felt like that at the time. It's only been about 6 months now, but I was so appalled at the relationship that I was able to recover slightly prior to the end and the understanding of what was going on. Some of the things that were done to my entire existence, I cannot explain in detail without falling back into a place where I never want to be again. I am finally to the point where I can read most of the sections of the site without falling apart completely. I cannot speak for anyone but my own experience and say that I have experienced almost every exact form of feelings and some of the actions. Validation was the toughest part for me because no one believed what I was saying and explaining, even with physical evidence and hard proof. I was accused of paranoid delusions and many other things, trying to get support and validation from anyone. I found that they would deny the possibilities and even felt as though, even after saying they despised her for what she did to me, they seemed to have her side. Many would still blame me for staying, putting up with it, and continuing to stay in the relationship that for the most part ended long before I accepted it. Yet she would have me back just to take more of my life, my finances, my heart, my soul. I could not believe nor wrap my head around that type of thinking. What I found to be the truth was so unbelievable, but 100% factual based on hard proof. I had a very difficult time with it. I have never experienced a true, to the textbook, exact definition of a psychopath as described on this website. I was torn down, beaten down, taken for granted to a laughable level, completely used and abused at any cost, even to the point it started to appear deliberate to destroy every aspect of my life. It was so horrific in the sense that she would literally be imprisoned for some of my discoveries, the invasion of my privacy, the hacking and exploitations, and the infiltration of every aspect of my life. Yet with absolutely no validation from any source, anywhere, especially with any type of knowledge or authority to help. I have decided to never pursue any action ever again, literally due in fear of my life. This site is the only form of relief and recovery I can find refuge in. I am an intelligent, educated, professional man that nearly lost everything, including my career, over what I thought was the true love of my life and the most beautiful woman I have ever laid eyes on. Not even a wolf in sheep's clothing, but more of how I would now describe the spawn of Satan, wearing the beauty and wing of a heavenly angel. I am now more self-aware and understand more of the betrayal bond and why I stayed far longer than I should have. I have experienced the extreme of emotional rape and have a much better understanding of cognitive dissonance than ever before. I try to remain as good of a person as I can, just much more aware and guarded than ever before in my entire life, and watch for the signs. I am battling with the severe ability to trust currently, yet I hope to truly love in my life someday. But if it means experiencing ever again some of the extremities I have, and as described perfectly in parts of this site, I would rather forever be alone. I thank everyone for input and support on this site. I could go on and on for 100 pages about my experience, but I would rather not remember most of it. Even the smallest remaining amounts of what I thought were some of the best times of my life have been all completely destroyed by the discoveries of the calculated and covert manipulation strategies by her. I loved her with all my heart, and she knew that, and showed not one tiniest bit of care as she walked away laughing at me, left in a pile of rubble in what was left of my life, yet still blaming me for not giving her my last dollar, my last breath, my last heartbeat. I will remain strong. It was a true test and trial of my life as a man on this earth. It shattered to the core of my existence everything important to me and my life, in that of morals, values, family, my children. A final word. I have since slowly but surely started taking back and rebuilding my life and maintaining the one thing she couldn't get from me, my integrity. I feel for and love all of you who have experienced even a fraction of what I endured, as now I can finally speak a bit more freely of it, though I choose not to in too much detail for many reasons. Everyone, please remain strong. You can get through it, as I am struggling to do. There are good people left in the world, though sometimes hard to see through the screens we now look through. But we are here. Peace. That story touched my heart. It's heartbreaking. But it's happening every day, not only to these two individuals, but many more people. And I think us women, we can talk about our feelings. We can say what happened to us because it's more believable. But when a man talks about it, it takes a lot to break a man, I believe. So when they are calculatingly broken down to pieces, the person who did it must have been very cunning. And this is the nature of a personality disordered individual. Their lack of remorse, their lack of conscience allows them to push the envelope to the max. And this is usually right on the brink of when we're about to fall apart. That's when we walk away. That, or to them, they've sucked us dry to where there's nothing left within us, or nothing left for them to exploit, to where they leave. But when they leave, we're done. And usually when we decide to leave, we're literally crawling, sometimes on our stomachs, out of the relationship. We have no strength. We have nothing. This is the nature of the personality disordered individuals. And I think the most dangerous part of them is the lack of conscience, the lack of the internal censor within them that says, stop. You're doing too much. Stop. You're hurting this person. Because think about it. That tells us that we can't, that for us helps us to draw boundaries. And this is why they continue to disregard the boundaries of other people, because they have nothing in them that says stop. And as you can see in these two instances, these men were pushed to the brink. And there are men and women listening to me now that you've been through this, and you're watching video after video after video, trying to wrap your head around why. Well, the why has to do with the fact that they have no empathy, no remorse. There's nothing there. So as I said before, my goal here was to validate you guys, to help you guys feel like you're not alone, and hopefully this can push you one step further in your recovery. I hope that this was beneficial and helped in the way that it was intended. That's all I have for you guys. Love yourselves, accept yourselves. You matter. Until next time.